Welcome to the making of the Cape Verdean. I'm so glad to have you all here. It's just a pleasure. And my co-host today is my daughter, Susan Saunders, who is going to take over for this point and do a little background on each one of you and introduce you. So hi, Susan.
Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. Welcome to the making of the Cape Verdean. And we're so glad to have three special guests with us today. I'm going to introduce them. The first is Dawn Marie Haynes. Dawn resides in Palm Springs, California. She's the CEO of Dawn Marie Haynes Incorporated, a luxury lifestyle firm. She manages exotic vacation properties and develops, renovates, and invests in luxury real estate, mainly in California and the Caribbean. And she is also a retired A-list celebrity fashion stylist. So welcome, Dawn. And then we have Todd A. Dos Reis, ASC. He is a director of photography. He lives in Los Angeles, California, and has been director of photography for the past 35 years in the film and television industry. And then last but certainly not least, we have Miss Alana Montero. She is a fashion model, singer, songwriter, and an actress, but I want to point out she is notably on the top 100 social media models in the United States, or is that the world? We'll find out.
The world.
The world.
Okay.
So we want to welcome Alana. She lives in New York and she was born in New Bedford, Massachusetts. So with that, we just want to welcome all our guests at this time. And Jeannie, I'll hand it back over to you.
Okay, so now here's our surprise guest. I'm going to bring that person in right now, and please give him a warm welcome. And I just admitted him. So connecting to audio, we have Tiny Tavares, who is joining us. And Tiny, we can't see you yet. Hopefully he'll be connecting any second.
Tiny.
Here. Okay.
Here he comes.
Tiny, can we see you? You should probably have done a test one. There he is. Hey, Tiny.
Hey, Tiny.
Hello.
Welcome. So glad.
Thank you for having me.
Let me give a little background on you now, because we've done everybody else. So of course, everybody knows him as Tiny, but we know him as also Perry Lee Tiny Tavares. He's a member of the Grammy Awards winning group Tavares. Yeah, you too. That's a little thing we got going, like Dawn, like you have with Susan with the $20. But anyhow, Tiny comes from a family of 7 boys and 3 girls, born in New Bedford, but was raised in Fox Point and Providence, Rhode Island. But we in New Bedford like to claim the Tavares because I'm sorry, they belong to us, and that's all good. Story.
That's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. So Susan, I think you were going to start off with that would be me, I think. Yes. Okay. So Dawn, we're going to start off with you.
Okay.
Tell us about all the exciting things, because you have to understand this program is specifically so that we can share all of your wonderful accomplishments and also share out there with the younger folks as well as the older folks to see what you left New Bedford and you went on to bigger and better things. So just tell me all about, what you've accomplished through these years.
Well, I'm thankful that my mother was my biggest inspiration, and she owned a boutique in Massachusetts in New Bedford. I'm also thankful to Tiny Tavares because he was one of my mentors growing up, and he would take me around to all of the concerts and meeting celebrities since I was a very young girl. So I moved to LA when I was 12 after my father passed away with my mother. And I was fortunate enough to meet a woman by the name of Tina Marie, who took me under her wings and allowed me to tour with her. From that introduction, she introduced me to everybody you could ever think of. And I toured with them, and it opened up many doors for me to be able to work with Queen Latifah and Vogue, Halle Berry, Usher, Common, Dr. Dre, Eddie Murphy, Jamie Foxx, Kanye West, and the list goes on and on. And that really, really helped me to see the world. I toured with them, I traveled with them, I stayed in the same hotels with them, and I was able to make a really great career and a good living out of being with that type of A-list celebrity. I became a fashion stylist to most of them, and I was able to then further my career in design with people like Donatella Versace, Roberto Cavalli, Mr. Armani, and Mr. Valentino. So with that, it's been such a blessing.
Well, and you know what, Dawn, let me just dive in right here, right now, and start off with the initial people, which is your ancestors. I want to know who your grandparents are from Cape Verde, and then we can talk about the other side as well, and what island they came from.
Okay, well, my grandmother's name was Maria Encarnação, and she, I believe, was from the island of St. Nicholas. Is that how I say it?
Yeah, St. Nicholas, right?
And my grandfather's name was João Santos, and he was from São Vincent.
Okay, and that is so important because those are the people that we stood on their shoulders to get where we are today.
Absolutely.
So, and I also, I've been so impressed with you lately because you've been doing HGTV stuff.
Yes.
And I've been following you and seeing all the great things you've been doing. So you've been like remodeling all these homes. And is there a link or something that people can watch you, or they have to go on Facebook?
I never did anything on my website with all of the development properties and such. For a while, it takes so long to do. You start a process by renovating and doing a thorough demo. And by the time you get through, it's, a year later, and the process is so great. And I go on to the next job. Same thing as when I was a stylist. I never really had a book or necessarily had to prove to anybody what I do. It was word of mouth. And, I guess I've been just blessed by angels to continue to be able to just shine.
So what do you think about that, Tiny? You had a role in this.
Well, she makes me proud. I think back to when she was just a tiny little girl hanging out on our pant cuffs, and for most people it was annoying, but for us it was a pleasure to have her with us. We'd take her horseback riding. We did all kinds of stuff. If we went go-kart riding, come on, Dawn. We did everything.
I don't even know if Tiny
myself, and
this.
cousin Manny. Yeah.
I don't know if Tiny remembers this, but you guys also took me to Disney World when you guys performed there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did we get to Magic Mountain together too?
Probably, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Disney World, yeah.
So listen, we're going to come back to all of that because we want to give everybody else an opportunity to share their wonderful stories as well. So Susan, who do you have coming up next? And we're gonna.
So what I would like to do is bring Alana into this discussion. And the reason I want to is just based off of what Dawn says. And this is really where we see these common threads in the people that we're talking to today and how they touch the community. So it's really about that international networking, how you get to meet people. And I think, Alana, you've had a lot of success internationally. You've been doing this, I think, since 2015 when you signed to Wilhelmina, maybe like 2014. But I know that you have had a lot of success internationally. Can you tell us about that?
Many of the top magazines like Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Elle, Marie Claire, Emerald, Glamour, and I think the industry is going very diverse now, because back then they didn't really accept people of color, and now I feel like they're so focused on people of color, people of different shapes and sizes, which is amazing.
And so with that, that diversity, what has it been about? Because I know that you and I talked, and there's been 2 Cape Verdean models like yourself who've just recently come out. I believe one is Stace, there's Alicia Morales, and another one. And they're both residing in New York. Have you had an opportunity to connect with them or make any connections with them as Cape Verdean sisters?
I have not.
Okay. So what about your family? Tell us a little bit about what island your family hails from and your connection to New Bedford and how that launched you as a model.
My great-parents came from Bravo, and my other great-grand, San Antonio.
Okay, so Brava and San Antonio.
Yes.
Okay. And that connection to New Bedford, how are you second generation, third generation?
I believe I'm third generation.
Okay.
And New Orleans, Susan.
Yes, that's my mom's side.
Right. So there's a huge connection, and a lot like Todd, who I grew up with, and Dawn, who I grew up with, and Tiny, who I had the fortunate of being babysat by. You and your mother and your aunt are two very good friends of mine, and we have all watched them. So I'm going to switch it because I want to keep with that international theme, and even just segue into one of the things a model needs best and most is a cameraman. And so Todd,
yes,
bring it over to
good
you now,
photographer,
because he is into photography and he is definitely noted well in Hollywood. So Todd, let's start off first with who your grandparents are, where they came from, and then tell us how you got into photography and ended up in LA.
Well, I'm a third generation Cape Verdean American. One side of my family, or both sides of my family, came from Brava and Santa Clara. And there's also a connection with Mayo. I don't know how correct that is, because when I went there in '93 to do a documentary, there weren't many people on that island, as I'm told. So I usually just say the Santa Clara and Brava. So my grandparents were born in New Bedford. So I was born in the south end of New Bedford, but raised in the west end of New Bedford. So I have the best of both Cape Verdean worlds. I mean, you can't go wrong with those two sides of the city. So when I was in the West End, I went to New Bedford High School, obviously, and got involved in the photography classes there. And also I ran the TV studio there. So that TV studio experience led me to finding what were the best colleges for film and television to go to college for. And my teacher at the time, Mr. Robitaille, who's no longer with us, gave me a list, and the #1 school was University of Southern California. And I had always been interested in USC because of the football team that was pumped into our Whaling City cable television. So we were getting that on TV, and I was like, well, that's great. I can see my favorite football team and study cinematography in LA. So, but before that, I also played basketball. As maybe people from New Bedford would know this, but I played basketball from the 8 till 19. And when I was about to graduate, I wanted to study film, but I also wanted to play basketball. Unfortunately, I was only 5'9", so there weren't many, Division I 5'9" basketball players. Although you see once in a while, you see one of them in there. So right. I went to a Division III school in Massachusetts for 1 year to play basketball, in hopes that I could do an independent study of film while I was there. So I went to Babson College 1 year, studied basketball basically, and then seeing that it wasn't working, I transferred to USC the next year and started studying cinematography at USC.
So, okay,
yes.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, please continue.
No question, come on.
Well, I just wanted to ask, and this is going to be, just because I'm going to swing it back over to Ginny, but I want to ask you, Dawn and Alana, how did you transition from small city New Bedford, which in retrospect to LA, New York, and so forth, it is a small city, to making your way into the industry and kind of breaking through the door? Now, Dawn, you said you didn't go for formal training.
It's just like it's possible. It's just like a lot of hard work and dedication. Like, you don't really need training. If you believe that you can do it, then you can just go for it.
Okay, Dawn, how about you? And then Todd?
Well, I went to college, and while I was in the university, I would take my summer vacations pretty much by going on tour with Tina. So my training did come from experience and being able to be led by somebody like Tina Marie and her manager, who taught me the ropes. And I was just really around some pretty magical, legendary people. And you really don't have an option not to be your best when you're around people like that. So each one of them taught me something, and it just got bigger and better as I grew.
Okay, you know what, too? Okay,
go ahead, I was going to just let Todd and then swing it over to you.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Todd.
What was the question?
So how did you transition and like just go into the industry? When you, like even out of college, you went to one of the best schools, that's notable, but did you have to meet the right people? Was it networking? Was it you had the degree and you busted through the door? What was it?
Well, I think a lot that helped me was basketball coming out of New Bedford, because I would travel with traveling teams. I think they would call it AAU now, but back then it was just like we would travel all over the state. Mr. Brito, who everybody knows, Peter Brito, would take us to New York and play basketball there. So we weren't afraid of anything. We were never afraid of Boston. We were never afraid of New York. And when it was time for me to like take off from New Bedford and go to Los Angeles, I didn't think anything of it. Like, oh, because it's a big city, I don't think I can make it. I just did it. I just knew I had to do it. And I knew that's what I wanted to study. So that's what I did.
And that's good, because now I want to hear from Tiny as well, because when I was Tiny, you're muted right now, but I just want to say this. Growing up, you know how we always had your followers, these call them groupies. And I was a groupie of the Tavares at a very, very young age. Follow them to Fall River when they used to play at the Green Door. Follow them to Providence. Remember the Green Door, Tiny?
Yeah, I remember all of those places.
All of those places.
The famous door in Springfield.
Yeah, every place. But anyhow, saying that, you know, it was hard, especially during your time, to take that leap. I mean, for the brothers, Chubby and the Turnpikes. What was the name before that? Chubby and the Turnpikes. It was
Del Rios.
Del Rios. Thank you. So, which some of these folks probably don't know, but those were, you know, to try to break into the industry, because everything was done in Motown or Philadelphia, or whatever. How did the Tavares jump from New Bedford and Springfield and Fall River to there and become successful?
Well, I think like everyone else, it's a case of popularity. We worked all of those clubs as you put it, but most of those clubs we worked, we packed them.
Right.
And I think word pretty much like Dawn says, word of mouth gets out that you got to have something. If they're packing houses and, you know, lines around the corner and lines down the street.
And what did you guys say? It only takes a minute, girl?
It only takes a minute. Once we hooked them, it was done. We just packed houses, and that became, you know, our notoriety, was the fact that we could pack them. And every time we came to a new club, they knew from the previous clubs that, you know, our reputation preceded us, and they they were ready to take us on no matter what city we went to, no matter what state we went to. And it became a very well known, you know, fact that Tavares is going to pack the house. And that was pretty much what did it.
And then let's talk about your parents, your father and your aunt, who were singers long before you guys.
Yeah. Well, my grandparents hailed from one more family that came from, my grandfather on my father's side came from Sunny Cloud. My grandmother on my father's side came from Santiago by way of Praia, the capital Praia. My grandfather and grandmother from my mother's side both came from Fogo, Campania, Fogo from my grandfather. And my grandmother's, I think it was Santa Catarina, but I'm still investigating and you know, researching the family. And then my mother was born in New Bedford. My father was born in Providence, and the two of them somehow hooked up, and she had 4 children before she met my father with her first husband, which is where my brother John and my half sisters Eva, Jenny, and Woa come from. Jenny and Pitch, I'm sorry, come from. Deolinda. We got so many nicknames. It just gets caught.
We all
up
have
nicknames
in our family.
Oh yeah. But and then we started performing, with my dad in the boys club. Back then it was just the boys club in Fox
And say
Point.
your father's name, because everybody knows Flash.
Feliciano Flash Vieira Tavares.
And your aunt?
They called him Flash Vieira. They called him Flash Tavares. My aunt Vicky was Vicky Vieira. They're his singing partner, his baby sister. And he had to beg them to let her go out with him on the road, because my grandparents weren't having that. You're not going to be in the. And then at that point, my grandfather had already passed. Raphael had already passed. So it was a matter of my grandmother saying, no, I'm not having my children out in nightclubs. But he finally convinced them, with the help of my Uncle Peter, that she'd be well taken care of. The band would protect her. And that's, that's where they got their start. And then we followed up right behind them. And, he started us out with the boys club. We were a tumbling team, like what your father used to do. We started out as tumblers in Fox Point. We'd tumble through the hoop and out onto the stage and start performing.
I'd like to ask the panel a quick question. What, and it's for everybody, what was your most exciting or most memorable job that you participated in? So for Dawn, like, was it a house you designed? Was it a celebrity you dressed? Alana, was it a specific job? Tiny, a performance? What was your most memorable or impactful project, if you will? Anybody can start.
Who's first? Who's got it?
Good. Todd's at the top. Let's start with Todd. Todd's at the top.
That's a hard question for me, just because I've been doing this so long, and there are a number of projects I worked on, not as a director of photography, and sometimes as a camera operator or a camera assistant. So if I went back, I would say, as a camera assistant, I worked on Titanic. So that was fun, going down to Mexico and shooting with James Cameron. As a camera operator and a director of photography, probably Entourage, because I got to travel the world. We shot in France. We shot every sporting event there was, HBO boxing, Dallas Cowboys, Yankees. We did that. And then there's another show I did called Longmire, which we shot in Santa Fe, which was great because I got to play with the darkness, which I like. So it's hard to narrow it down to one. I'm sorry, but those are a handful of the ones that were most memorable to me.
Okay, Alana, you're next on my screen.
Yeah, it is pretty hard to narrow it down, but I've worked with so many amazing brands, but I would have to say between L'Oreal Paris and CoverGirl, because I always admired those brands growing up. So it was just like a complete honor to work with them.
Well,
and
let me
just
interject this. I know it was all of those, but I remember when your big poster was up in TJ Maxx and your mother was running up there to get a photo. So that was exciting.
When she went to the movie theater and took the J-Lo poster.
Yes.
Still in our house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was very inspiring because I got to meet J-Lo. Sorry, what'd you say?
Oh, I was going after the one at Panera. Every time you turn around, it's like, I know that girl. I know her.
Also, I worked on a bunch of film projects where I met really inspiring people. Like I met Mark Wahlberg, Naomi Campbell, and they really inspired me. So yeah, working on films was really cool too. So it's really hard to pick one.
Okay. Dawn, you're next.
I have to agree with both of the people that just spoke. Todd, you are so right. It gets better, The first one that you think, oh my God, how do I top this? It just continues to get better. So yeah. I'll say, working with Halle Berry on the James Bond film and being able to travel on the James Bond private planes to every country to do the press junkets. But then, working with Eddie Murphy and Donatella Versace and working on the Oscars was incredible. And then I worked with Quincy Jones for the inauguration of Bill Clinton and got to go to the White House and be, on the stages with all of these amazing, legendary politicians. And, I know that each and every time I do something, I'm hoping that I'm making Cape Verdeans proud. I carry the blood with me. And, my friends always say, what is it with you guys? Every Cape Verdean gets so excited when you bump into another Cape Verdean. And I tell them, we are so proud, we're a proud people. And I always announce to whoever I'm around that my mother's family is from Cape Verdean, and my mother was born in New Bedford. I was born in Connecticut. I grew up in New Bedford, and I am so proud. I was with Hillary Clinton during her campaign, and when she announced to the world, New Bedford, I had goosebumps. I was there in Philadelphia, and I just stood up and was screaming. And I got so many text messages from people saying, did you hear Hillary Clinton shout out New Bedford? And of course I did.
I remember that. And let me tell you what else I remember, Dawn. I remember going to California and I was with some friends. I don't know if Susan was there at this time. And I called you on the phone. She said, I can't talk, I'm on the red carpet.
I was with
That was fun.
But I answered your call though. Guess what? I answered that call.
You did. I gotta give it to you. You did. All right, so Tiny, what was your best moment that Susan was getting ready to have?
You're gonna kill me because there are too many to mention. It's like the rest of them, I'm the oldest of the bunch here, so I've lived a long life of a lot of famous and interesting spots. I would say, I guess one of them that really, catapulted our career would have been opening for the Bee Gees at Madison Square Garden, or we wouldn't have done more than The Woman on Saturday Night Fever album, which, as you know, became one of the largest, as far as selling albums in the history of music. We did a lot. We performed with Maroon 5. We performed with some of the most. It's one of the last things I heard recently that really makes me proud was I heard about an interview, and I got some of the footage on it done by New Edition, and they referred to us. Well, they also referred to us in one of the movie things they had done on them. They had a spot where they put Tavares into the movie, and it was the first time I ever heard them and actually give tribute and homage to Tavares, because they said we named the group the New Edition, and it was in reference to we wanted to be the new Tavares.
How cool is that?
Yeah,
I'm so glad you're Tiny, because when I saw that movie, and it was the story of New Edition, and I was sitting at home and I was with some friends. If I say to them one more time, I know the Tavares, I know.
He babysat me.
You know what, Susan? I think
was my first babysit.
I think we do that with everybody. When we see Dawn, when we see Todd, when we see Alana, I go,
Susan was probably my first.
She was born. Oh, Susan. Todd, he was born the same time my daughter was. Oh, Dawn and I used to mentor Dawn. And Tiny, he's a babysitter for my daughter. I have that connection.
Susie was my first babysit. Well, her and Chubby, actually, you guys came in around the same time. I babysat my niece Lynn and Susan within the same week. That was the first babysitting jobs I had. I guess one gave me credit for the other.
And that's the part of what we love about being Cape Verdean. We have always been a family, no matter where we live. Just like when we went to when we were in DC on the mall, the Washington Mall, we knew everybody on the Washington Mall. Hey, so and so, hey, and people are looking around like, how do you people know one another?
But and I'll tell you, I literally, and I do this. I will sit, and I used to do this because I saw it one time by a fluke. I was sitting in the movie theater and I was trying to finish my snacks before I left, and I'm watching the credits, and I saw Todd DeSreese, and I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, I know him. And then other people in the movie theater are like, oh, okay, she's a little happy. But it's exciting, but it really is exciting when you come from a small community, a small knit community, and people within your community, and people like laugh because it's like, how do you know these people? Well, because our community is so small, but our reach extends far beyond our own arms. And it does come in the form of the Todd DeSreeses, the Don Haynes, Alana Monteros, and Tiny Tavares and the Tavares brothers. So that impact does hit the world. And it is because of those of you that have been around people and have put those thoughts of Cape Verdeans out there and made Cape Verdeans known. And it comes even through our ancestors, the first Miss Black USA or Miss Black America and others who have gone out. And then they find out, what's this strange thing called Cape Verdean? But it's the amazing work that you do too, that touches the communities to let them know who we are.
So I want to jump in, Susan, and ask each one of them another question about knowing how, sometimes I remember back in the day, a long time ago, I was speaking with a young Cape Verdean woman, and she had never, ever left the South End of New Bedford her whole life. I almost got claustrophobic when she said that. How do you convince anybody that comes to you, a Cape Verdean, because we're talking about our Cape Verdean community, to take that leap and take that chance or follow their dreams? And I'm going to start with you, Todd, Because I know Tom Lopes was one of your inspirations. You said that a long time ago. You're muted. You're muted, Todd.
Yes, absolutely. Tommy Lopes was definitely one of my mentors. He started me out videotaping whatever we needed to videotape was, whether it was the Cape Verdean parade or some tumblers down in South End or something. But I mean, people, when they talk to me, they don't even ask me that question, how do you take that chance? Because they just look at me and say, well, you went from New Bedford to Los Angeles? I said, well, that's the only way to do it. I think there was some kind of function, a panel I was on at SMU when it was still called SMU. And someone in the audience asked me, well, why didn't you stay in New Bedford and do what you do? And I said, I couldn't, because there was nowhere for me to study cinematography and cinema in New Bedford or the surrounding areas. The closest best place was New York. And so I wanted to go to the #1 school. So I went to USC. But I mean, people are going to have to decide for themselves how to, I love New Bedford to this day. I was just there 2 weeks ago, but there's nothing wrong with New Bedford. It's just, if you want certain things you want to do, you're going to have to leave New Bedford. There's no other way to do it.
Yeah.
Good answer. Alana?
Yeah, when I was first interested in becoming a model when I was 17, I was researching the #1 market for modeling, and it said you have to move to New York. So that was my big inspiration there. And I was like, I'm going to do it because this is what I'm super passionate about. And that inspired me to take that leap.
Did you find it difficult though, adjusting to New York as a young?
Oh my God, it was such a huge transition coming from a small hometown, New Bedford, to New York City. It was a big transition, but after a few years, I got used to it. And now it's like home to me.
I heard all the stories.
My anxiety, my panic attacks, my craziness.
Right?
Yeah, it was a big transition,
but a good one. But a good one.
Yeah.
It was an excellent one.
It pays off in the end.
And Dawn, you left kind of young too. You just scooted on out of here.
Yeah, I had no other option. My mother packed my stuff and said, we're moving to California. I was 12, so I didn't have an option. Unlike some kids now, they tell their parents what they're going to do. We didn't have that option. We did what they told us to. So I want to speak to the people who are listening and watching this podcast and say that, traveling is the best thing you could do in the world for yourself. The opportunity to go to another country, to get on a plane or a train or a bus and to see outside of your culture helps you to grow and helps you to become a better person. Trying other foods, listening to other languages, listening to different types of music, it helps you and it elevates your spirit to also want to learn more from other cultures. We have a strong culture, we have great food, but there are so many other countries to visit. And I think that it will help you to become more successful when you see the world. So take that risk, take that leap, jump in with both feet and explore the world.
Good answer. And Tiny, because you were the baby of the group too. So let's get to you now.
Yeah, well, it comes from wanting to be successful, and as the rest of them said, it comes down to you just can't do it in New Bedford. The biggest city near us that we got successful in was Boston, and then once we outgrew Boston, it got to a point where you had to broaden your horizons, as what Dawn is talking about. You just had to broaden your horizons, and the more you travel, the broader they got. One of the most important things that made me realize we were becoming successful was seeing a big billboard on the Sunset Strip.
Yes.
That was like, okay, we've arrived. Of course, the same day we went and did a photo shoot, and they had us washing cars in the car wash. Like, we weren't even that group. At the car wash, that wasn't us.
Well, and let me share this with you, because I knew as much as I wanted Susan to stay in New Bedford, the day I packed her bags and I said, no, you're going to Howard University, you're going to DC, you're going to Maryland, I don't care, but you're not going to stay in New Bedford. And nothing, like Todd said, nothing against New Bedford, but I knew that the park wall was fun, but you wasn't going to get the exposure that you would get from moving on. And I'll be honest with you, the day I packed her bag and she got in the car with her father and she was heading to Maryland, I cried for weeks. I had missed her so much because it was always her and I, you know? So I know your parents all felt the same way because I knew every one of your parents, this I can claim. And I know that void that we miss, that void that we have when our children just fly off and go off and do their own thing. But you gotta let them. You gotta let them. And a lot of parents don't allow their children and to take that move and let them follow their dreams. So, and I know Susan, you'll say something on that because yes, as much as you thought maybe I wanted to get rid of you so I could have my own life, I cried. I did.
I know, and I apologize that as you were crying, I was like,
yeah.
you see?
Wanted her freedom.
Because, but you know, I think one of the things, and that's why I believe that the series that we're working on, the making of the Cape Verdean, is important because it does show people within the community that there is so many opportunities out there. And one of the things, like even with Alana, when I was talking earlier about these two other Cape Verdean models who some are just starting out, but Alana's, you know, she's established, she's doing things. Now Alana is more recognized for her new endeavor with singing and songwriting. And when you Google it, that's what pops up versus the modeling thing, which she's been doing since 2014. So there's so many opportunities for our youth and the people within our community to get out there. But I think sometimes that fear of jumping, that fear of leaping out is what holds people back. And that's just not for the community of Cape Verde, you know, Cape Verdeans in the Bedford. That's for anybody and wanting to leap out and get out there and experience things. But the voice, and again, so I was impressed, and I'm going to kind of bring it back to the movies again, when in the movie with Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell, Hard Time or Hard Something, I forget the name of it, but he mentions Cape Verde in the movie 3 times. I'm going to go and get property in Cape Verde, and I'm going to go get whatever in Cape Verde. And I was just like so excited because it was a Kevin Hart movie, it well grossed. How many impressions of Cape Verde can you hear at one time? But when you hear that, then you know that there's something and there's expansion going on. I don't know if you all know this, but there's more Cape Verdean Americans than there are Cape Verdeans within Cape Verde. But the influence of Europe in Cape Verde is higher than the influence of Americans, Cape Verdean Americans in Cape Verde. So how do we make that voice so loud that people start taking notice so that more of us can be, I guess, celebrated for the things that we've done? Because there are a lot of very well-known Cape Verdeans out there, Michael Beach, what's his name? Carlton Ribeiro. So there's a lot of them that are out there. So how do we, and you tell me, how can we use that voice that so many of you have in touching so many, like you said, Dawn, to hear from a national platform from a presidential hopeful, New Bedford, you know, but it's just not New Bedford, it's the community. Right. And how do we make that known to those that are out there?
You know, I want to say something, like when you asked about traveling, I moved to St. Martin after my mother passed away. I moved to St. Martin. And by being there, I was able to take pictures every day and introduce St. Martin to more than 200 or 300 people. I had celebrities come and stay at my Airbnb, my vacation property rental places. I have receipts, you know what I mean? I could show the Cape Verdean consulate, the embassy, what I did with St. Martin alone. I wish that Cabo Verde would allow some of us to go over there, you know, to be invited there so that we could promote it through our social media, so that we could see with our own eyes each island. My mother and a few other people many, many years ago in the early 80s was invited by the consulate. They flew them over, they kept them there, they showed them Cape Verde because, like you said, we're here in America. A lot of us have never even been there. But I think that if we were able to do something, whereas they took 20 people who are successful Cape Verdes, who have the reach, and took us over there and allowed us to help them with their travel. What is it?
marketing and promotions.
Yes. Yeah, I think that would be
And they have a
great,
tourism group.
a tourism board. That's what I was looking for. If they could just tap in and allow us to, you know, do something.
And that can happen, Dawn. That can happen. We can talk
I've been
about
thinking
that.
about this.
We can
I
talk
really
about
am
that
looking
because-
forward to doing something like that, even if it's
Yeah.
bringing, you know, awareness where like Todd went over there and maybe talk to Cape Verdean young people, because even they need to travel and they need to come to America to see what they can fulfill, the dreams that they could fulfill as well.
Okay, Tiny, you was gonna say something because I think, you've been to Cape
Well,
Verde. I've been there.
on the subject of Cape Verde, I was blessed to go to Cape Verde twice as a solo artist. First time was the Festival Gamboa in Praia, and then the second time was the Santa Maria show that we did. I did also as a solo artist, but doing the festival in Praia for the jazz festival in honor of Cesario Evora was probably the most, you know, the most popular we had ever, you know, in success as far as going to Cape Verde. I love it there. I have lots of family there. I prefer to spend more time with them than I do doing the promotional stuff. So I get myself in trouble because I don't want to be at all the functions with the ambassador and this one and that one. I want to go to dinner with my cousins. But beautiful to be there. It's a wonderful place. I wish we could promote that, as Dawn says.
And let me say this. Most of you know on here about my father's book that I edited and published, The Making of the Cape Verdean. When I did the book signing in Cape Verde, that was all set up for me. Former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Victor Borges, set that up for me. And when I tell you, he convinced me to go to Sant Anton when I ended up, when I was going to Praia. When I got off that plane, because it was the second time I had been there, I love it. I kiss the ground when I get there because this is my ancestors. When I went to Sant Anton, I got off, I was getting off the boat and I looked over the boat and I saw these people down there waiting for me. It was my two cousins. I didn't know, but I knew when I looked at them, they pointed at me, I pointed at them. We had never met each other. And they knew I was Jeannie Costa, the Costa family. Mm-hmm. When I went to the school where we were doing this presentation, I cried because all my family was there. I had never met. And it was such a humble experience. And they embraced us. They want to meet us. They would love to meet Alana. They would love to meet a Todd. They would love to meet a Dawn and Tiny and Susan.
Teeny. They called me Teeny.
Teeny.
They didn't want to call me that. It was Teeny. But you know,
and that's great. It doesn't matter what they call you. It's the, as we call the Mortabaza.
Yeah.
The love that they
I
show.
do have to thank Tony Neves for taking me there the first time I ever got to Cape Verde.
Yes.
And like you, I kissed the ground as soon as I stepped off
and you
the plane.
will. So Alana, have you been there? I'm sorry, Alana,
I have not, but I need to go like ASAP.
And you will.
Yes.
And Todd, you've been there or no?
Put it out there.
Yeah, I went in '93 to do a documentary.
Okay.
Great.
And Dawn?
I have not been, but I just got the surprise of my life. I'm going April 23rd to San Vicente, and I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm going to give you a list of people to meet over there.
Okay.
I am definitely going to do that because that's what we do. We connect people over there, and they are so happy to see us, to meet us, to know what we're doing. So I can't express enough to people about the feeling that you get to go and connect. And what is that? It says Cape Verde. You got your, that's your tickets right there.
I'm ready.
So in saying all that we've been saying, you know, this what we're doing today could be the springboard to doing something, this group, getting to Cape Verde and sharing our experiences over there. Right, Susan?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We actually did
go.
a trip and we met with a lot of the foreign ministers there, the president of FOGU, the minister Fernanda Fernandez, we met with her. And it was a wonderful experience because it was really humbling. One, because you really understand the needs, but Cape Verde is not like I ever envisioned it. I was so excited. I was so happy that the soccer team won the day we went by the stadium. Right as we went by the stadium, they won. So I know it brought that good fortune to the team Cape Verdean. And then we took pictures with them afterwards. They stayed at the hotel. But the same love that I know when I go home from, Maryland to New Bedford, like around Cape Verdean Independence, and you're hugging and you're kissing and you're squeezing. That's the same love you get when you go to Cape Verde. And it's the same, no matter how big the ocean is between us, we really are brethren to our home country. And I think, Dawn, you're right on point. I think that at some point in time, we have to come over and see how we can utilize our human resources as well as our other resources to bring that, or swing that pendulum, if you will, so that some of the fortune from Cape Verde can be brought here so people can know it. And then we bring it back over there, spend our resources and help enrich our mother country.
Yeah.
So we have about 10 minutes left, which is 10 good minutes. But I want to hear from each one of you some parting words, or, as far as what it is for you to be a Cape Verdean. So again, we're going to start with, Susan, we're going to start with you because you're the co-host. You tell me.
So essentially, and I'm going to actually bring it back to one of our guests, and I'll tell you exactly what being Cape Verdean means to me. Dawn came to Maryland, stayed for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years maybe. She had this beautiful property, and Dawn has always been about reconnecting and engaging and networking. So I can speak to her ability to do that. She opened up her home and her land to basically every Cape Verdean in the DMV. And for those of you who don't know, it's the District, Maryland, Virginia area. And we probably had about 100, 150 people there.
Yes.
And it was spread like word of mouth. Everybody bought something to eat. We had so much jag. I didn't know like what season of jag I was looking at. It was summer jag, fall jag, every jag. And then Dawn's favorite meal, which I know I'm going to screw it. What is it called, Dawn?
Galinga Gazal.
Oh, Galinga Gazal, Susan. You should know that.
No, but I would just love watching Dawn's teeth on that. But I say that to say, the Miss Cape Verde was there. This is how great it was. Miss Cape Verde came. But it was seeing old friends. It was embracing those friends as if we had just left each other yesterday. And no matter how far apart we are, no matter where we go, we always come back and we always are there to embrace one another. And that's really what Cape Verde is to me. In 4 short letters, it's love.
Okay. Todd the Sweet.
Well, I just think it's being a part of an amazing culture. I love when someone asks, what's your name? Where's it from? And I get to explain the Cape Verde Islands, and they go, well, who do we know from the Cape Verde Islands? And I always start off with the Tavares, because not many people of Massachusetts, outside of Massachusetts, know Cesario Evora, So I start off with the Tavares. Tavares, yeah, remember the Tavares? They were on the soundtrack for the Bee Gees for the Saturday Night Fever. I start there, and I start with New Bedford, but because I've been out here forever, and when I was out here, I definitely was the only person of color in my film school. And then Ralph came out, Ralph Corday came out, and he also went to film school. But every Cape Verdean I meet out here or anywhere I go, they become my cousins. We're cousins. They're like, how can we have so many cousins? Like, any Cape Verdean's my cousin. I hire anybody I hire. I always try to hire people of color in my industry, but if I get lucky enough to get a Cape Verdean, it's a home run. But yeah, that's what it means to me.
Wonderful. Dawn, you're next.
I wish that I could speak the language. That is something that I regret. But there are certain words that I can walk up to any Cape Verde and say, ai, confiar. Feel like I'm speaking Portuguese. And then I remember my grandmother's famous words to me, Untadabnum soknum book. Because I would talk back to her. So those are the things that and I laugh about to this day. But, I am proud because we had such a close community. You know, had bike rides, we had the wall, we had times where we knew that someone was watching us and we better behave, because by the time we got home, our mothers knew what we did. So I love the fact that, you know, Jean, I have to say to you that I remember going to camp, and I remember you being a counselor at this camp. I don't even know how old I was, but that was the moment that I absolutely knew that you were my godmother in spirit. You watched over me. I thank you for that, because I remember all the girls had something happened with these bugs in their hair or whatever, and I was the only one who didn't get it. And you took care of me, and we played together, and you were my comadre, as they say. How do they say it?
Comadre. Yeah.
Yes, and I remember
Madrine.
that till this day. You took care of me, and I love you forever. And thank you for having me on this program.
Thank you, Dawn. And now Alana.
Yes, moving to New York, I noticed a lot of people didn't know what Cape Verdean was. Like, they would ask me, "Oh, you're so beautiful, what are you?" And I would say Cape Verdean, and they would have no idea. Until this day, they still have no idea. So I think it's really amazing that I'm able to share that with them. And to be Cape Verdean means to be proud of something. I'm proud to be a part of a community with shared culture. And I also believe it's a sense of belonging to something that ties you with others.
And you're related to half of New Bedford.
Yep, everyone's cousins, like you said.
Exactly.
Everyone's family.
Yes. So, all right, and Tiny?
Yeah, very proud to be a Cape Verdean. One of the things I really maintain is being able to cook all the food, including galinha guisada. I make cachupa. I make cachupa rito because I like to throw everything but the kitchen sink into it. The other things are, you know, just being there for community. When people say, you know, where did I go? I'm still New Bedford. No matter how far I get away, I'm always back there. I'm back there every summer. I'm back there practically half the winters. It's just very proud to be Cape Verdean. You know, we have to maintain your schools, as they used to say, maintain your schools. And they always told us, when you step out as a Cape Verdean, you make sure you bring it with all of the, you know, the grace that was taught to you, and all the discipline and all the respect. They want you to respect, you know, everyone. We don't see that as much anymore. I wish that's something that we could pass on to the children beneath us now, the generations that follow. They need to learn respect of their elders. It's just a dying art, you know. It's no longer a part of our community. We need to get that back.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Jean,
And Tanya,
are you going to tell us yours before we wrap up?
no, I just want to say mine. Yeah, right now I will. Thank you. So here's my thing. First of all, Todd, you know, I knew your mother and father. I grew up with them. I love them. I miss them in my life. You are a product of them, and I am so proud of you. Dawn, I knew your mother. I never got to know your father, but I knew Anita Haynes with her unique boutique and all the affairs that she put on, her and her sister. Wonderful. Absolutely. I just feel that connection to you through that. Tiny, I knew your whole family. I knew Shu. I used to go to the house in Bay Village when she lived there. I didn't know Flashes were, but I knew Shu, and when they moved to Wareham. And it was such a pleasure being around your mother, raising all these kids. And I don't know if you know this, that know this particular piece of history. I think I might have told you this. Michael, who was your sister Eva's son, and I used to babysit him. Michael was blind. He couldn't speak and he couldn't hear. And I used to babysit for Michael when they lived on Grinnell Street. So, you know, that whole circle of going around, you ended up babysitting for Susan at some point. Alana, I knew you since you was a little girl. Of course, I know your mother and your father, Denise Porcher and Alan. And all of you, I am so proud of you. You are what make Cape Verdeans. You are part of our legacy, our history, our culture. And with you continuing to do everything that you're doing out there, that makes our culture and our lives and our legacy that much more rich. So thank you. And I'm so proud of all of them. I'm proud of my daughter, Susan, who's been the co-host today. Great co-host. She didn't cut me off at any time. And let me talk. So I just want to say, I hope you all enjoyed this segment today of the making of the Cape Verdean. And hopefully we can bring this around again, and maybe all of us go to Cape Verde together and do something over there.
Yes.
Let's do
Sounds
it.
like a plan. Sounds
Yes.
like a plan.
I'm in.
Definitely.
Okay.
Count me in.
All right. Well, it's actually 4 o'clock on the dot. Look at that.
Professionals.
Professionals. So I love you all, and thank you so much again for being part of the making of the Cape Verdean.
And
Thank
good to
you.
see those
Thank
faces.
you.
All right, and I'm going to end the recording, and